celebrating the small wins. So if you're able to instill these habits that are small, that are manageable, and you're biting off one at a time, and then you're working it into your routine until it becomes this second nature, then we want to make sure that we are incentivizing ourselves by giving ourselves some sort of reward at the end of doing the thing that we said we were going to do. So welcome back everyone to the Priority Report. I am Scotti, and today we are talking about the number one mistake that people always make when they start a new personal transformation. I fall victim to it just as much as the next person. It's a natural thing to have happen that we have all experienced before, and we're all socially conditioned for it. So in this episode, we're going to talk about what that one thing is, and we're going to talk about what are the 7 strategies that you can use to make sure that you bypass this mistake and can move into your transformation sooner, faster, better, more sustainably than you otherwise would. So with that said, let's get started. I would like to share with you a truth that I find to be very relevant to this particular topic. And that truth is known as the overnight success. We have this tendency to think that we're going to do things perfectly the first time around, exactly when we try it the first time, and it's all going to go swimmingly, only for us to be completely shattered and disappointed when we discover that there are new skill sets that we have to learn, new lessons that we have to work through, and lots of things that we hadn't anticipated that stand in our way of being brilliant at the thing when we are just starting out. So I will poke fun at myself in this particular instance and just say like, hey, look at me, I am learning how to podcast, and I thought that I would just be epic and amazing on day one. And this is a learning curve that I did not fully anticipate, and I did not fully anticipate how like uncomfortable it was gonna be. And I have all these like challenges and things that I have to work through in order to continue to get better at this. But I recognize that the more that I do it, the more that I practice, the more that I put in, the better and better that it will become. And I even feel like, even though this is still early days episodes, that I have made some improvements since starting. So thank you for being on this journey with me. For that, I'm sure that you have something that is similar that you can relate to. Now, that being said, our number one mistake that people make is related to this. It has to do with us trying to accomplish all of the things and get to the outcome as quickly as possible. So when we want to be the overnight success, we tend to go all in on day one and try and accomplish everything in one fell swoop. And then we get to reap the rewards and feel super successful, and we don't have to go through all of the discomfort that comes with the learning curve over time. And the truth of the matter is there's no like getting away from that. So I want you to think about the last time that you started something fresh, the last time that you attempted a big personal change. That could be something like you decided you wanted to get in shape for the year, or that you were going to clean the garage this weekend that has 10 years worth of stuff in it. It could be that you set some big strict goal around how you are going to do something. Let's just make it easy and say, like, people who are on really restrictive diets have some really restrictive patterns, and maybe that's something that you've attempted before and been like, oh, dieting, woof. But if I can just lose that 30 pounds, and I can do it as quickly as possible, like, then I can be through the pain of the diet and I will be out on the other side and everything will be amazing. Now, as you're thinking about this instance that you have recently gone through that is similar to that, I want you to think about how it felt. And I want you to think about what your strategy was for how you were going to achieve your goal. Did you choose to try and accomplish every single thing all at the same time? Did you break down your initial goal, the outcome that you're looking for, into smaller, more manageable pieces? Or did you just go whole hog? I would say more often than not, people are very likely to try and do everything and end up accomplishing nothing. Now, one of the reasons for that is that we are told by society that our change should be immediate and it should be dramatic. So other people are looking for our change to happen in this very grandiose way where they get to see the results just as much as we get to see the results. Let me use myself as an example with this one. I keep getting asked to my great chagrin, well, when are you getting back on stage again? Like, when are you gonna bodybuild again? And my answer continues to be consistent, that I never stopped bodybuilding. And there will come a time when I get back on stage, but that is not this season of my life. But that's not to say that the effort and the work is not still being put in. You're just not seeing the results of that the way that you expect to see them. So people are looking at me going like, why don't you look like you have tons of hypertrophy? Like, why aren't all of your muscles showing? Why don't you want to get on stage? Like, isn't that the exciting part? And like, yes, I do. But the hard part that people don't talk about with bodybuilding is that you have to build muscle, and building muscle requires that you put on weight. It also requires that you spend lengthy periods of time not on stage, but in fact spending time eating, spending time sleeping, spending time in the gym, spending time controlling your rest periods, like taking care of yourself, essentially. Like, there's a lot more that goes on behind the scenes that no one gives credit to. And that's the same with any goal that you might have that's probably not an extreme sport. There's a lot that goes into being on a diet. There's a lot that goes into cleaning your entire garage. There's a lot that goes into whatever it is that you've picked as your New Year's resolution for the year. And so being able to break down whatever our big objective is that we want to accomplish, in my case, getting back on stage, into these tinier, bite-sized, more manageable pieces that we can continue to practice day in and day out over time, may sound unsexy, but it is in fact the most sustainable way to get to the end result that we really want. So at Slow Living Solutions, we talk about this in our program as we have to break everything down to the minimum viable change. So we're talking about what is the smallest habit that you can possibly accomplish and consistently accomplish over time as a way of getting your low-hanging fruit, to show some quick wins, to gain some confidence, as the place that we're going to start for any major transformation that we're going to make together. Habits, and that's what we like to call them, your minimum viable change is a habit, has to be extremely small, and it has to be consistently repeatable action. So the second strategy, after you've chosen what your tiniest of tiny habits could possibly be, is to couch that in strategy number 2, which I call the rule of 2s. So you need to be able to do this habit that you've selected for 2 minutes, at least twice a week for 2 weeks. That is your barrier to entry. If you can do that, then we start looking at how do we continue to build upon that. Do we do said habit for 3 minutes? Do we move it to 3 times a week? Do we find a way to do it for a 3rd week? Perhaps our next evolution is to still do things for 2 minutes twice a week, but now we've done it for a 3rd week, and we're going to keep plucking away at that until we know that, like, hey, I'm going to do it next week. I'm going to do it next week. I'm going to do it next week, because that becomes an autopilot part of your behavioral processes. We want to make these habits become part of our way of existing and part of who we are and part of our identity as the long run. So our next strategy is to make the habit recurring. So while we have a cadence that we've now discussed, we also want to make sure that we are setting ourselves up for success by making that habit happen at the same time, in the same place, using the same tools for the same process. The more that we can make it habitual, hence the word habit, the more that we can just instill it into the way that we operate, the easier it becomes for us to just do it as second nature. So I like to give the example of, like, when I am making coffee in the morning, I will empty my dishwasher because I'm waiting for it to brew. And I have paired those things together so much now that I don't even have to think about it. That's just part of my natural routine for when the dishwasher gets emptied. The same as, like, the habit of always putting my dishes into the dishwasher after each meal. So when the dishwasher is full at the end of the day, or however many days it takes for me to fill my dishwasher, I know that I'm going to run that dishwasher after dinner that night, and I will empty it out the next morning when I am making coffee. So next up is celebrating the small wins. So if you're able to instill these habits that are small, that are manageable, and you're biting off one at a time, and then you're working it into your routine until it becomes this second nature, then we want to make sure that we are incentivizing ourselves by giving ourselves some sort of reward at the end of doing the thing that we said we were going to do. So, for instance, I like to empty the dishwasher, and my reward at the end of that is to then have my cup of coffee. So I have built in a way in which doing the thing that is not as exciting or desirable to do, once that's completed, I get to go do something that is desirable and that I do want to do. And that's a natural trade-off of like, hey, if I accomplish this task, then I get to reward myself with this thing. And that is something that recurs just the same as the habit recurs. So it's a positive reinforcement that allows me to keep going every single time that I have to do it. I also recommend that you try pairing something with the exercise that you enjoy. So oftentimes while I am brewing the coffee and emptying the dishwasher, I will play my Spotify playlist with Miles Davis, because that is one of my favorite things to listen to. So I will make the activity more enjoyable by pairing it with music to keep me entertained while I am going through the motions. And then at the end, I get to drink my cup of coffee and listen to some more Miles. And like, that is the like epic moment of my morning that I really and truly look forward to. So another strategy that you're going to want to use is prepping your environment. So I touched on this a little bit a moment ago, and let me circle back to it. I was saying how I make sure that another one of my habits is to always fill the dishwasher with the dirty dishes after I'm done eating, so that when the dishwasher is full, I can just run the dishwasher. And that way it is good to go to empty in the morning. So for me, the prepping of my environment is making sure that the dishwasher is ready and run prior to the morning, so that it's ready to go and done with its cycle by the time I wake up, brew my coffee, and am ready to get started. It wouldn't work the same if I woke up and then I had to clean all the dishes and like rinse them all off and then put them in the dishwasher and then run the cycle and then wait for, like, it doesn't, all of my timing would be thrown off. I would have to like basically wait until the next day to actually do the thing, because the dishwasher wouldn't be ready for me to do the habit. So I want to make sure that I am setting myself up to succeed by making sure the environment is ready for me to accomplish the task that I'm working on building, which is that emptying of the dishwasher. So next, I like to think about it as like, think about your future self. So what does this habit say about me and say about my values? When I think about, again, using the dishwasher example, for me, having a very tidy house is a huge part of keeping my emotional regulation, my mental regulation. I like a space that is clean. I like a space that is organized. I like a space that is pretty. And if I'm not taking care of things like my dishes, and I'm not putting them back where they belong after they've been cleaned, like, chaos ensues. I don't like that feeling, and I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be messy. I don't want to be dirty. I don't want to be disorganized. I hate walking into my kitchen and feeling like a tornado has gone through. So it's really important to me that things get cleaned up in a tidy, orderly manner. And so this is where I'll use this example to talk about, like, we've got habits, we've got routines, and we've got systems. So let me just take a pause for a second and give you the definition for each of those. So we've got the habit, which we talked about, which is the like singular action that we do recurringly to accomplish some task at hand. When we start stringing habits together, we build up a routine. So a lot of people have a morning routine, which is what I've been referring to. Is like, when I get up in the morning, I will use the bathroom, then I take out the dog, make sure that he's good to go, let him sit outside for a hot minute, start the coffee, feed the cat, empty the dishwasher, go back and get the dog, feed the dog, then I can get my own cup of coffee and sit down and enjoy that because everybody else is kumbaya. But being able to time out each of those habits then creates this routine. So I complete the routine every single day, more or less. And that is what helps to keep things feeling very orderly. It makes me know what's coming next. It's great for my mental health. It's great for making sure that I am time managing. So routines are a set of habits that are related to one another, that all are time boxed to support one another in how it is that we get stuff done. Systems are how routines fit together in order for us to better manage our lives. So the system, if I'm using this example, could be how I keep my house in order the way that I do. And one of those things that I do to help manage that system is my morning routine. But I also have an evening routine, or I have a work routine, or I have scheduled things that are happening throughout my life that are when the laundry gets done, or when I wash the pots and pans that don't go into the dishwasher, when the dog gets walked. These are all part of a bigger system that help to keep things regulated, managed, organized, on time, etc. So when you're thinking about your habit and you're thinking about your routines and you're thinking about how your systems work, there's a great quote by James Clear that I'm going to have to look up really quickly because I don't remember it offhand. He says, "You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems," which I personally think is a hard knock truth. That is what we are discussing today. So when we have great systems that help to keep us regulated, that help to keep us organized, that help to keep us time managed, we tend to operate a lot better than when we don't. And so it's harder for us to accomplish the goals that we have if we don't have those systems of organization and time management that help us to alleviate some of the extra mental energy, stress, etc. that can impose or impact our ability to achieve the goal that we have at hand. So I like to think of it as all of my little habits need to add up to routines, need to add up to systems that add up to me demonstrating the person that I want and believe myself to fundamentally be, that are a demonstration of my core values and character. So if you're struggling with eating healthy, or getting your fitness regimen in, or doing something else that you maybe don't love doing, can you start to make your choices when it comes to doing those things based on your fundamental principles and the kind of person that you want to be? So can you make choices about what it is that you want to eat by first asking yourself, what would a healthy person do? What would a healthy person eat in this circumstance? What would somebody who is physically fit do in this particular circumstance? How can you start to couch your identity to become the kind of person who does the things that you want to embody in your own transformation by asking those questions of what would the person who's already at the end result of this do as a way of getting yourself motivated to do it today or do it now or build the discipline and start to make the association between who you are and the behaviors that you exhibit. All right. That leads us into the last but not least strategy, which is the necessity for consistency over perfection. So one way that we undermine ourselves, especially when we do the all-in approach, is we think that we have to do everything perfectly. And we have to do everything perfectly all the time. And then when stuff gets messed up or our schedule changes or something happens that doesn't allow us to do exactly the thing, we get discouraged, and then it's like we throw the baby out with the bathwater. So instead of doing that, which gets you no closer to your goal, how can you start to reevaluate what consistency looks like for you? So I know for myself, I can't always make it to the gym all 4 days that I want to, but it's ingrained in my identity that being a physically fit person and being a bodybuilder means that I make it to the gym. So if I can't go all 4 days, can I go 1 day? Can I go 2 days? Can I make sure that if I can get in 1 or 2, great. Then can I do 1 or 2 next week? Great. If a week goes by and I get sick and I don't go to the gym, okay, well, let's get back on track and I go the next week because I still go to the gym consistently, because when I look at measuring time, different than in days, but instead look at it in a month, I've still gone to the gym consistently throughout the course of that month. And that's what's important. If I can change the way that I perceive the goal so that the goal remains achievable, and I continue to practice what it is that I want to embody as a behavior, then I am still continuing to do something over time, which is what the definition more or less is of consistency. So it may not happen every single day, but if it's happening on a more recurring basis than not, then we can think of it as still being a success, even if we have to look and use a different measuring tool to get there. Does that make sense? So it's important that we don't undermine ourselves thinking that everything has to be a certain way or be perfect, or if we don't do all the things all the time, just so that suddenly we have failed, because that's not true. And that kind of takes us all the way back around again to where we started, which is that rather than trying to accomplish everything and think that we're going to be a success at it overnight and just be able to magically do the thing that we haven't ever been able to do on a consistent basis before, how can we instead focus on practicing something small until it becomes habitual for us, and then we can continue to build into the next small habit, into the next routine, into the next system that gradually builds us to becoming the person that we are transforming into and want to be. So, in conclusion, what we want to do to get to our personal transformation is to stop making the mistake of thinking that we're going to pull all the levers and do all the things all at once, and we're going to do it perfectly, and we're going to do it all the time, and it's going to be amazing, and we're just going to wake up and be a totally different kind of person, because that is a recipe for disappointment and failure. And instead, we're going to look for what can we do today? What's the teeny tiny, what's the smallest commitment that we can possibly make, our minimum viable change that we can practice until that minimum viable change becomes something that we can add on to, that we can create to be a little more stretchy, We want to continue in our process of building our habits to always make sure that we are challenging ourselves just a little bit more and just a little bit more. We want to get 1% better every day at the thing that we are working towards. So in order for us to get to our ultimate transformation, we can't just focus on the one minimum viable change forever. We have to build that in and then continue to layer upon it as we get better and better at the craft of how we are changing ourselves. So thank you so much for joining me today and listening to this episode. I hope that it gives you some peace of mind on how you might structure your approach to goal setting, your approach to transformation at large, and that if you would like help with that you reach out to Slow Living Solutions. I am always thrilled and excited to talk with people about how we can think differently about taking our great version of ourselves and breaking that down into day-to-day habits. We all could use a little bit of help with that. I know I've had my mentors that have helped me over the years. So if you would like that kind of help, I do encourage you to direct message me on social media, the word habits, and we will get in touch to talk about how I can best support you in designing your minimum viable habit and your path to long-term success. You can also join the email list if that so interests you. And I encourage you to continue following along for more slow living solutions and strategies. So thank you for joining, and I hope to see you next time.